Hey everyone, this is Zaram, and this is the admin side tutorial for cosplay races for version 2.23.273. Um, if there is a player side tutorial as well, I've decided to split it up into two because there's just so much to cover now with the races add-on. So I highly recommend that you go and watch the player side tutorial because this is a continuation essentially of that tutorial. So go ahead and go watch that. Once you've done that, come back here and I will show you all that can be done for the admin side. So we will go ahead and look. Um, is this one just broken now? Huh, interesting. So we will go ahead and look at um, this. So the first thing that we're going to do is look at the admin menus on the cosplay mirror. So if we hit E, only the admin will be able to see these two, as denoted by the admin tag. Um, and the first thing we're going to look at is the edit race datas, and this is the big one. So, um, one thing that you do need to note is that if you have it to where your characters see the race selection on first spawn, um, or the force mirror menu on first spawn, especially the race one in particular, the default race cannot be selected. It is simply there to show essentially like that they haven't selected their race yet. So if you have multiple races, keep that in mind that you're not really going to want to customize the default race. The reason that the default race does exist and doesn't, just not exist is so that if people want to ignore the races side of cosplay races, that they just don't touch it, nothing happens, you know? Um, so anyways, to access these settings here, you hit general settings and then you can do these different things. So show only non default stats. I'm going to show that off real quick. That is for when you're looking at some race selection stuff. So, um, if you have show only non default stats, you see it doesn't show anything here because basically nothing is changed. It's just, all default. But if I go and show all stats like that, now you'll see that it shows everything even though it's just normal. And that's purely up to you and what you want to include or don't want to include. And then these you can force race selection on first spawn or force mirror on first spawn or not. That is completely up to you. Now, you still can edit certain things. Like one thing is you might have noticed the null skin. That's what this is designed for. It's designed so that you can set the new player default to a null skin so that that's the skin that they have when they're first customizing their character. Because when the character has one of these race selection thing or whatever on their person, they are invincible while they are selecting their race. So infinite food, water, all that good shit. And that's just so they don't have to worry about dying when they're looking through their race stuff. But as soon as they select what they want, everything goes back to normal. Um, so now we're gonna go to actually making a race. So we're gonna go and add a new race and call this new race what 3. And you will notice that it has a race ID. Um, that's always hidden. Um, so let's see. So the race ID you can pretty much ignore, because that's not super important. Um, that's only going to be important for bug testing, which you'll come to me for. Um, and then you have a hide from race selection menu. This is for the menu that you get when you first spawn in and you force them to show the race selection on first spawn, right? So if I do this and I have race 3 and it's not hidden, if I hit save, start again, you'll see that I see all 3 of them. Draconoid, admin, new race. But then if I go hide it, there we go. You'll see that it doesn't show up anymore, and that's in case you want to have an admin role like this, which has no restrictions. All right, so now we will move on to bigger and better things. Race description. With this, you can write out a race description. Now, you can... Here's an example of one that's really, really long. And that's... There we go. And so you can basically expand this forever. So let's say I want to copy this and just keep going and 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 going. You can do that. Although I do caution restraint. Now then, we'll move on to the basic value multipliers. For most things, if you hover over the name, it'll have a little tooltip there for you. That'll kind of explain certain things. I think that's there for almost everything. It should be there for everything, but anyways. These are just flat multipliers, almost like you have it in that single player advanced settings menu, like for Arc. And then you can move on to your body customization for settings, and these are self-explanatory as well. You can hide implant, show implant, you know. Then you have a clamp here. You can set a max, so like a max of 2, minimum of 4. For skin texture. This one will describe allowing skins with a plus, disallowing skins with a minus. So say I want to allow scales, aquatic scales. There we go. Those are the only 2 allowed. So now we will move on to extra stat multipliers. So these are multipliers that are not really in the base game. You have health regen, walk speed, sprint speed. Now, there are 2 different walk speed things. There's a movement speed up here, which affects all movement speeds, so swimming, sprinting, walking, everything, etc. And it also modifies your animation speed. This one down here, these down here, do not modify your animation speed. They just edit the overall speed. So if you have super large characters, so like characters that are force scaled up to like 3 or something like that, you might want to play around a bit between this one and that one to kind of get the animation speed right, as well as getting their speed right. And so you're going to have to do a little bit of math if you want to fine tune that. If not, if you don't really care that much, I would probably just edit this one here. But I left both options for those people who love to fine tune everything. So yeah, you can look over all these. There is a mult with jump legs thing, and that's because the jump legs have a default multiplier of the base jump height of like 150%, or multiplier of 1.5. And if you want that to still be a thing, you can go ahead and do that. Or if you want this jump height to straight up override your jump height at all times, regardless of if you have the jump legs or not, then just leave it unchecked. And this will just override it. Underwater breathing, that's self-explanatory. Hypo and hyperthermal. Right now there is a bit of a bug with that one. It does work most of the time, but there is a bug when you do things like mount a Basilo and then unmount it. Right now, just to note, it can be fixed by just jumping, by your character literally just jumping, um, or coming out of the water, or any way that it changes its movement state, other than crouching or proning, because that still counts as walking. Um, I'm still looking into that, and hopefully I'll have that fixed soon. Another thing, if you are an admin and you go into creative mode, you will notice that you will be constantly pooping. A way to fix that is just to type in this disable pooping thing. Simple as that. Another thing is new player defaults. These new player defaults are essentially what players will have as default when they first spawn in. Even if you want them to be able to change it in the future, you can still set what they have for default. So if you have like a raptor race, you're obviously gonna want to default to have their helmet hidden, maybe their pants hidden, but that is up to you. Or maybe their hair, hidden their hair. Maybe you want a race to default to aquatic scales. I don't know. Again, up to you. I would probably default to hide implant, which is what this one is, rather than show implant. But anyways, so next we will move on to your part blacklist and whitelist. So as well as the required part list. So this is the blacklist / whitelist, and this is the required list. Now the required list overwrites the blacklist whitelist. So if there's a part in the required list, it will ignore whatever in the blacklist or whitelist. So if you want to only have parts required and really restrict what your players can have, you can just set this to whitelist so that there are no parts here, and then just require parts. But that is up to you. So you might be wondering what some of these buttons are. So this is the required button. So if you click it, it adds it to the required list. And this one is the whitelist button, adds it to the whitelist. Now, let's go on to these buttons here. So if I go to search up Raptor, and let's say I just want to quickly whitelist all of these here. These buttons here will swap basically your whitelisted or required for all parts that are in the current search filter. So like only for these, if I click whitelisted, boom, all whitelisted. Let's say I want to do piercing, P-E-I-R. I don't know, I'm shit at typing stuff. Let's just do like that, right? Switch whitelisted, boom. All the piercings are whitelisted. Super quick, super easy. So you just go through. The whitelist is pretty self-explanatory. You just go ahead and whitelist all the parts that you want, right? So let's go ahead and switch all whitelisted and then take these off. There we go. Perfect. All right. Now let's move on to the required parts. So we're going to go ahead and add these, and it doesn't matter that we have them in the required list because, or in the whitelisted or blacklisted list, because again, they are required. Now I move on to the group ID. I kind of explained what that does in the other video, but this is how you change it. So, you know, you change them all to like this, and they have to have one of these, but not all. And it's that simple. So for those, that's it. Let's move on to Dino neutrality. So if you go ahead and head over to Google, and let's say you want to make the raptor neutral, so arc raptor, and then we will go to the spawn command here, and you'll start it after the little blueprint thing. So let me zoom up for you here. Get out of here. So you'll start it right here, and then we'll select it up to here. And you're going to want to add an _C to it, but this field will also help you autocomplete. So even though I didn't have the _C and I just had the this right here, it auto-completed it for me, right? And it'll say that this is valid. And so there you go. So that's how you make this Dino neutral, and then this is like at what distance you want to make it return to its default aggression. So say like 1000. Now it'll return to its default aggression at 1000 Unreal units. Which is like 2 character lengths, I think, roughly. Again, that's measured in centimeters. So actually that would be roughly 5, maybe 6 character lengths, roughly. Anyways, now we will move on to the blacklist or whitelist riding dinos. So if you want, it's the same thing. Stick in a dino there, and then they can't ride it. Let's go ahead and switch over my race real quick. So let's just spawn in this guy. Cheat. Game summon. Raptor. Character BPEC. There we go. And you'll see that I can't ride it. Even if I give myself... did I spell that wrong? R-A-P... There we go. Yeah, even with the saddle, I can't ride it. Another thing to note is that when you update stuff in the edit race data menu, it does update live. So you'll see on the new races 3 how I have that done. Now if I go back to Raptor and I force require one of the heads, hit save, you'll see it updates your character's head. And then let's say, oh well, because of that, we're going to want to, whoops, make sure the hair is force hidden. Hide facial hair, hide that hair. Whoops, that's not the right race. There we go. And then let's say we're also gonna want to allow them only to ride raptors, right? So we'll change it to a whitelist, save. Force updated your character. So try not to edit this, you know, too spammingly, and that's why I made it to where only one admin can actually edit these 2 things at a time so that they don't override each other, and so it can't be spammed, so that your server won't, you know, cry. But now, as you can see, I can ride a raptor because it's on the whitelist. So I think that is all for this menu. Pretty simple. Now we will move on to the edit player races, and this will show all the players that are currently on, and you can go ahead and edit their race, right? So as you can see, I'm currently a raptor person, but if I change it to Draconoid, I do want to warn you that as soon as you click one of these new options, it'll search out and change that person's race. So please do not spam this at, you know, your own discretion, because it's your server that you're going to make cry. But yeah, so yeah, it'll update that as soon as you change it. That's why there is no save button. But you can search by player name. So if I search a blah blah blah, won't show up. but survivor, and it does show up. It's kind of hard to show with just one entry, but you get the idea. Okay. There we go. That's also a quick fix if you didn't know. If your character changes, your scale arc has a really shit time with moving people out of stuff. And a lot of times, if the scale change is minor, all they have to do is open their inventory, close it, and then crouch, and it's all good. I don't know why that fixes it, but whatever. The next thing are these admin altars. So the admin altars are where a player can go to select certain races. Now, let's say we want to make a subsection. All right, so let's say we want to make a subsection of new race 3. Let's go ahead and duplicate it, and we'll call it new race 3 small. And we will clamp it at like 0.6. I don't know. Right. So like that. Now let's say we're gonna have this placed in an event or in a dungeon or something like that, and we want to allow people who are race 3 to be able to go to race 3 small. So what you would do is first you would need to spawn in an altar, and you can simply do that by cheat GFI altar 100. Or I think the full name is gonna be race. Yeah, race altar. No spaces or anything like that. And then you get some of these. Go ahead and place that down. Now, first we're going to select what race we want the altar to be on. So select altar's race, and we will do race 3 small, right? And now we're going to select what races we want to allow to use this. Because see, it's currently not even allowing me. So what you're going to do is go to the select races to allow use. And we're going to say, okay, well, only the race 3 can become the small. So now that I have that selected, now it'll let me use it. So if I go ahead and learn from this and become the race, now that I'm small, it won't let me use it because I'm no longer race 3. But let's say we want to enable them to go back if they want, but it's only like a one-way. Then you can set this to race 3, allow small, and now they can go back. There you go. So yeah, that's how these altars work. They're pretty simple as well. Now, altars should auto-update whenever you update the mirror, but if you find that for some reason the data inside of the altar is not showing correctly, for whatever reason, it should always. But just in case it's not, there is a force refresh race status, which you can click here. And it will just force refresh it. Again, for force refreshes, make sure that you don't just let go of E, because that won't do anything. You have to wait for it to select and then click for it to actually refresh. And that's just arc being arc. For anything with a cooldown. I think that is all for the altars. And I think that is all for this. Let me think. Make sure that we covered everything. Dinosaur riding. Yeah, next we're gonna go into a bit of the server side maintenance and stuff like that. So I'm gonna go and exit off of this. So on your server, if you go to this um what do you call it, directory, it's Steam, Steam apps, common, arc, shooter games, saved, save games, skins for furries. That's where all of your data is going to be held, right? So the race data is .save. That is your race data is .save is where all of your race data is saved. I don't know how else to say that. So all of the races that are set up and there. This does not track the players. That is done in the player data's folder. In the player data's folder, you will have files that are like FPD and then a whole bunch of numbers after it. Those numbers are Steam IDs, right? So, if you need to find a certain player, you'll need to get their Steam ID, and then you can just search in your folder to find that player's stuff. So let's say someone somehow bugged out their player's save. Get them to make a template, and then oh dear, and then just go into the server files and delete their save data. This is something that you don't have to restart your server to do. You should be able to just go in there live, delete the data, and then just have them go to a mirror and refresh, and then it'll create a new save folder for them. And they can just make a new customization thing based off the template that they just made, all that good stuff. So that's where all of those files are that you can take a look at in case something gets borked. Next, we will be looking at your config, right? So if you go, thanks Steam. Any day now. I apologize for the wait. I had this ready, and then I guess Steam decided it wanted to update. Right, so if you go to the mod page, and then go to discussions, and go to game user settings.ini, here's a list of all the INI. There is a lot. There is also just some descriptions for some INI that is not blatantly obvious. And so you can just do like Control F and look for like max scale. Let's see what that does. Max. I think that's one that's pretty blatantly obvious. So like max bone. Ah, yes. So here you'll read it has a little description, tells you the max and min, all that good stuff. So that's how you find a bit about the INI. So you're gonna go ahead and look through that, have some fun. If you have any questions, let me know. Then let's say you want the spawn code, or you want to change the resource requirements, all that good stuff. Go to the item codes /game.ini, and you can gives you a very brief tutorial on how to override crafting costs, and then gives you the spawn codes for the scissors, the cosplay mirror, and the race altar. The scissors didn't really need a tutorial, I didn't think, just because they're super simple. It's just like better scissors with no dye requirement. So now that that is all done, another thing that I want to point you towards, and that you should definitely point your players towards, is the is my Discord. There will be a link. There's a link on the mod page. I will also put a link in the description of this video. So you just click over to my Discord. and you will see that there are some channels over here. Now, one thing that I highly suggest you look through is the resources. These UVs are for some of the full body replacements, like the clean male and clean female, no ears and all that good stuff. And this is just for like tattoos, for players that really want to customize their tattoos, or players that have trouble getting a good skin color. Please check out those resources. If you find any bugs, there's a bug report. Please bear in mind I made a template. Follow it. And there's also channels like community help and all that good stuff. And in case you need to discuss something in private with me, you can go to other commissions and just make a ticket there. So or you can just direct message me. But anyways, that should cover all of that. This is a quite large mod now, so again, if you have any problems, please contact me on Discord, or first contact the community on Discord, because they're very helpful and they're around pretty much 24/7, and most of the time there's someone to help you out. Because my community is awesome. Thank you, community. Anyways, thank you for sticking around for the roughly 32 minutes now. I hope you enjoy cosplay races, and I think that's all. So I bid you adieu. Adios.